Welcome. You are in the lab room. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. Week number 13, aka Showdown Sunday, as I have dubbed it. This was the biggest showdown of them all, and the capper for week number 13, a game that everybody was excited to see. Hell, they were talking about this game on Monday night last week when the Redskins and the 49ers game was on. They were already looking past that game because the 49ers had that one well in hand. They were looking forward to this game. They had already circled this one on the calendar as the must-see marquee matchup of week number 13. And who could disagree? You're talking about 10-1 Seattle, 9-2 New Orleans. This essentially was for supremacy in the NFC. This one was going to help go a long ways to determining what city you were going to have to go through to get to the Super Bowl in the NFC conference. Because if you're Seattle, you're 10-1, you're riding high right now, you're getting healthy, offensive line fully back and intact. You got Percy Harvin on the mend. You got a couple of guys suspended. You don't know if both of them or one of them will be back here shortly. So, I mean, you're getting healthy, though, where it matters, and that's that offensive line. Everybody's back, so you can run the football, you can protect Russell Wilson, you can run all the things that you want to run, and you're sporting a 10-1 record coming into this game. Like I said, you're going to win your division, barring some kind of catastrophic collapse down the stretch. You're going to win this division. And so I've already said this from last year. I said that this team could have went to the Super Bowl last season had they had home playoff games. And I said at the beginning of this season, and I said this even last year, nobody wants to come out to the North Pacific West to play this Seattle Seahawks football team. Nobody wants to go into CenturyLink Field and have to come out with a W. It's just a daunting task. And this is one of those situations where the Saints had a chance to do everyone in the league a favor. Because I guarantee you, every team in the NFC would much rather go to the Superdome and try and get a win than come out to Seattle and try to get a win against them and the 12th man. I guarantee it. And so this was a huge game because if New Orleans could find a way to go and do something that no one has been able to do in over a year and a half, which is win in Seattle as a road team, then they would go to 10-2, pull the Seattle Seahawks down to 10-2, and they would have the balance of the NFC control in the palm of their hands. Because if they went out and they finished the season tied with this Seattle Seahawks team, they'll own the tiebreaker, and guess where the road to the Super Bowl in the NFC must come through? New Orleans, I guess. So, again, this was a huge game for both teams involved, and if you're Seattle, this is a chance to make a statement. This is a chance to put this whole conference away and put it in your back pocket, turn around, walk away, and have nothing to worry about but getting ready for the postseason. I mean, you've got a couple of big matchups left in the season, but this is the biggest one on the calendar right here because even if you lose to San Francisco next week and you win the rest of your games, you're still 14-2. You're still going to win the NFC conference. You're still going to win your division. This is your last big matchup that you got to have, okay? The rest of the games, I feel like you'll take care of business. This is a really good football team. This was the one you had to take care of, though. And you don't want to look down the road. This is the one you had to have. If you're New Orleans, this is a chance to make a statement. You really want people to respect what you're doing this year. You really want to make your road to the Super Bowl, your journey back to the Super Bowl, as easy as possible. This is your opportunity to really build a foundation toward making a case for going to New York in February. This is it. I mean, because if you can get it done, or at least show us that this will be a competitive ball game, if in fact this has to happen down the road in January, if you can at least make this a competitive ball game, you would have sent a message to everyone around the league and the Seattle Seahawks that, hey, even though you got us, it wasn't by much. And if we got to come back here again, it'll be a different story. So this was so convoluted. This storyline was so loaded. I just couldn't wait to watch this game. And what we ended up getting was an old, passionate old-fashioned, passionate ass whooping, getting your shoes, coat, and your hat taken. And you know what? Sometimes there's nothing wrong with that. This was an old 1950s ass whooping, okay? The kind where no guns, no knives, none of that stuff. Not like today where you get in a fight and you get shot. No, this was an old school ass whooping. One of those ones where you get beat up and your hat gets knocked off of your head and it's dirty and your shirt's all dirty and you get up and you brush yourself off and you got a bloody nose and your eye is blacked up and your nose might be a little crooked. And you get up, pick your hat up, you dust your hat off, and you wipe your shirt off and you readjust your nose, you wipe it, you got a little bit of blood on it, and you really can't see out of this eye really good. The swelling will go down eventually over time, but you just don't feel right. But at least you live to fight another day. This was an old-fashioned, passionate ass whooping that was handed out. And did I see this one coming? Not really. No, because I said the difference between this New Orleans Saints football team and the one from the past is that this one actually plays defense. So even if the Seattle Seahawks come out like gangbusters, this New Orleans Saints defense will be able to keep this game close, even if this Seahawks defense is dominant at home. This Saints defense won't allow this game to get out of control. That was the thought process going into this game. Let's break this thing on down from the lens of me, Louie T. So, 9-2 New Orleans Saints, 10-1 Seattle Seahawks, and the tone was set in this game from the jump. Okay, the tone was set early, and as a good football team, that's what you got to do. You got to set the tone nice and early in football games. Seattle forces a 3-and-out. So not only do they get the ball at the half, but they force a 3-and-out right off the bat. And then they march down the field but have to settle for a field goal as the drive bogs down in the red zone. And Marshawn Lynch fumbled, but he recovered it. And this is something that I think you got to pay attention to if you're a Seahawks fan, is Beast Mode fumbles the football. He doesn't have, because he runs so tough sometimes and without, a care in the world, he runs with such reckless abandon sometimes. Sometimes he forgets, oh yeah, I do have the football in my hand. And the ball can be stripped out. Remember last year in the playoffs against the Redskins, he fumbled at the 1-yard line. If you lose that game, that's definitely a play that you would have circled as the turning point in that game, because you can't fumble at the 1-yard line. And he's a guy that will put the football on the ground. We've seen him do this many times. But again, you got it back, so it's not something that you really need to talk about. But again, he needs to hold on to the football. We're getting late into the season, and turnovers are something that will impact the game when you get into the postseason. You can't turn the football over. So he's got to hold on to the ball, but he recovered it, and it was 3-0. And this kind of start to the game wasn't that alarming to me because, yeah, you get the 3-and-out, yeah, you go down the field and you make it look easy, but you don't get in the end zone, and that's what I was talking about. Even if this Seahawks team is dominant, this is a different New Orleans Saints team this year that can actually play defense, keep you out of the end zone, keep this game relatively close. So even with the dominant performance that I thought could come from the Seattle Seahawks, I still felt like this New Orleans Saints team offensively was going to put up some points. I didn't think they were going to score a whole heck of a lot of points, but I thought they would score enough, and I thought this defense would keep this game relatively close to give them a chance at the end. Maybe they wouldn't win it, but that's why I thought this game wouldn't turn out to be a blowout. So Seattle only gets 3, and that's what I was talking about. They kept them out of the end zone. Even though this was an impressive opening drive, it only yielded a field goal. So it's 3-0 Seattle. And right now you're still feeling like this is going to be a great game. You're excited. I mean, crowd is amped. It's a beautiful day. It's not raining yet. Doesn't it seem like it rains on cue? This is why it's such a hard place to play, is CenturyLink Field. Because the Seattle Seahawks hold a distinct advantage at home. It seems like it's always going to be brisk and a little chilly. And that's not hard for an NFL player to adjust to, because in any city, any given city, any random place in the NFL, it can be cold on any given day unless you're in a controlled environment like a dome. So if you're outside, the elements will come into play at certain points. And it can be cold anywhere. It can be cold in Chicago, Green Bay, Cleveland. It can be cold anywhere. Pittsburgh, Baltimore, it doesn't matter. So it's not the brisk, cold, wind of Seattle, Washington that gets you. It's the mist. It's the rain, coupled with it being cold. It's just something that you have to get used to if you're a visiting team. You can mentally say and mentally try to prepare yourself, and you can play with wet balls in practice and try to simulate some of the elements. That doesn't matter. The Seahawks had a distinct advantage at home because, A, it's going to rain. It's like it rains on cue. It's like they have someone in the control rooms of CenturyLink Field, and they have a button that says precipitation. And then they have another button that says rain. And when they see fit, when they feel like it's the perfect time for it to start raining in the game, they just press the rain button, and it starts to mist ever so gently, and then it gradually picks up as the game wears on. And as a visiting opponent, you're at a disadvantage because you're not used to those elements. You start to slip. The ball is slippery. How many drops did we see from New Orleans? And yeah, they were laying a wood out there in Seattle. Guys were getting hit. One play, Jimmy Graham has his hands on the football, and Bruce Irvin lays the wood on him from behind, and he drops the football. But a lot of that, too, had to do with the fact that the ball was slippery, and they're not used to a slick ball. They come from a dome environment where the control climate is something that they don't have to worry about. And so outside, it's wet. That's something that's tough for them to adjust to. Meanwhile, the Seattle Seahawks, they play in this every week, it seems like. And so, hey, a little bit of rain isn't going to hurt them. In fact, they embrace it because we're used to this. A little bit of cold mixed with a little bit of rain, that's our home field advantage. It just makes it that much more tough to play. And then I don't even need to talk about the 12th man. It's just a tough place to go and win a football game. And that is why this is such a huge advantage for the Seattle Seahawks. But it's 3-0. Seahawks back on the defensive side of football now. And you're thinking, okay, now I want to see if Drew Brees and his offense can kind of get something going. And even if they only pick up a first down or two, just to see them moving the football and see if they can kind of feel out the process and start to get a rhythm and a flow offensively. Let's see what they do on this second possession. And it's 3rd and long, and the crowd is, you can see that there's some miscommunications going on between Drew Brees and Sean Payton. The plays aren't coming in fast enough. They almost got to delay a game. Then they get a delay a game. They got to call a timeout early in this game. So you can see the wheels starting to turn already. The 12th man already impacting this game. And it's 3rd and long. And I can see it. I said Drew Brees is really holding on to the ball too long in his pocket. And again, that has to do with the physicality of this defense, really getting up in the face and challenging these receivers off the line. Again, keep in mind that the Saints have a lot of guys that can hurt you, but they have a lot of smallish receivers too. Colston is a big guy, so is Jimmy Graham. But after those two, you've got Lance Moore, you've got Kenny Stills, you've got a lot of guys that aren't bigger in a frame-wise. And they were getting up and challenging these guys early in the football game. And Brees had a hard time really deciphering where he wanted to go with the football. And on this particular play, to me, this was the game-changing play. This play right here really kind of signified what was to come in this football game. Cliff Averill gets around the corner, and this was a coverage sack. This wasn't Cliff Averill being special and just beating the left tackle on this play. Charles Brown or Charles, whatever, James Brown, whatever his name is, Charles Brown, I believe it is. This wasn't a case of Cliff Averill just being special and beating him off the snap and getting to Drew Brees. This was a relentless pass rush that was aided by some great coverage on the back end. Drew Brees held on to, you got to have that internal clock. If the ball's not out by 2.5, something needs to be happening. You need to either be running, you need to be getting down, or you need to be throwing the ball out of bounds or checking it down. But that clock needed to be going off at that point. It didn't. And as he decided, okay, time for me to get rid of the football now, Cliff Averill had already looped around and started to come back up into the pocket, which means you're holding on to the ball too long when the defensive end is pushed around You've already had time to step up in the pocket, and you still have the ball in your hand. It's time to do something. Drew Brees tries to get rid of it. Abel gets his hand on his wrist. Ball comes out, and it was just such a gratuitous bounce. The ball goes straight from Drew Brees' hands right into the waiting arms of Michael Bennett, who calmly goes around the trash, gets to the outside. I thought someone was going to grab him, and then you saw the athleticism of Michael Bennett take over. He gets down the sideline, gets a convoy of blockers, gets into the end zone. 22-yard touchdown return from Michael Bennett. The crowd is raucous. It's 10-0. All the momentum in the world is on the side of the Seattle Seahawks. At that point, I said, the Saints are in trouble. This could be a long night for the New Orleans Saints. And that was a huge play because that, to me, set the tone right there. That was the tone setter for this game. That's when everything changed. Your whole view on this game and how close it was going to be, I don't know about you. I can't speak for anybody else. My whole view changed. I said, the Saints are going to get dominated tonight. Now, did I know it was going to be as bad as it was? No. I thought it was going to be something along the lines of 27-13, but I felt like they were going to get dominated after that play. I mean, that's as bad a start as you can have if you're the Saints. To go 3 and out, to have Seattle march down the field. They didn't get a touchdown, so it could have been worse, but they get a field goal. Then your next set of plays, you still don't have a first down. You still really don't have any positive yardage to your name in this game. And then you turn around. You're already having trouble with communications. You can see that now from sideline to the quarterback. So you're already being impacted by the noise in the stadium. And then to have your quarterback stripped of the football and have it to be recovered and returned for a touchdown, you can't get much worse of a start than that. So it's 10-0 Seattle. They're really, really feeling good about themselves right there after that big play. Saints go 3 and out again, and again, you could kind of see the writing on the wall at this point. This defense is getting after the Saints, and they're starting to smell blood in the water. And you could see that this was going to be a long game. So Russell Wilson connects with Zach Miller on a bootleg on 3rd and 1 for 60 yards down to the 4-yard line, leading to a Zach Miller 2-yard touchdown grab on a beautiful pick play at 17-0. And at this point, I've all but kind of told myself this is going to be a blowout now. This game is Seattle is showing their dominance. They're showing off right now. Is what they're doing. They're showing off on national television for everyone to see. Just in case you don't know how distinct this advantage is at home, we're going to show you right now in prime time against the best, quote unquote, other team in the NFC, because we're the best, and we're here to prove that right now. But if this is the second best, if this is what you have to offer as the next best team in this conference, the rest of this conference is in trouble come playoff time. That's what this statement was to me. But I still held out some kind of hope that if the Saints could just muster some type of offense, put up some kind of points, maybe they could calm the crowd down. Maybe they could weather the storm. Maybe they could get back into this football game because, again, I thought that the defense would settle in and that this Seattle Seahawks offense would be slowed down at some point because this Saints defense is better. That's what I kept telling myself. Saints finally show a pulse with a 13-play, 80-yard, 8-minute and 10-second drive. That speaks volumes to me that it took them 8 minutes and 10 seconds just to get in the end zone. I mean, how hard do you have to work for a 13-play, 80-yard, 8-minute and 10-second drive? Now, in the course of a normal game, that's an excellent drive. That's a wonderful drive because you're running the football, you're chewing up the clock, you're being efficient. But what this said to me, and if you watched the game, then you really understood the magnitude of this drive. This was a huge drive for the Saints. But if you were watching this game, you saw how hard they had to work for this touchdown. They had to work. 13 plays means they had at least 3 or 4 third down conversions on this drive. 8 minutes and 10 seconds means you were nickel and diming your way down the field, and you had to work for everything you got on this drive. And they did. I mean, this was a tough drive, but they got it done. And it went from the end of the first quarter all the way to the middle of the second quarter, and it was capped by a 2-yard Jimmy Graham touchdown. Jimmy Graham, he's a man. Touchdown, and it's 17-7 at this point. But if I'm Seattle, I feel like, okay, you worked extremely hard for that. You're not proving anything to me there. Like, I was expecting the Saints to prove to this Seahawks defense that we can move the ball on you. But when I looked at that drive, I wasn't impressed because they had everything they got on that drive. They just got enough. They barely got enough. It's not like they got an abundance of something. If it was 3rd and 2, they got 2 yards and a half. I mean, they were barely getting first. That touchdown to Jimmy Graham, he had to fit that in between 3 Seahawks defenders. And he barely got it in there. But he got it in there. But that let me know that this was everything they got in this night was going to come the hard way. Nothing was going to be easy for them. Conversely, Seattle was moving the ball at will. Everything was coming to them easily in this game. I mean, if the Saints blitzed, they got picked apart and eaten up with a huge play. If it's 3rd and 1 and they ran bootleg, they hit Zach Miller for 60 yards. Everything was coming to Seattle easily while the Saints were struggling and scratching and clawing for every single thing they were getting. So 17-7, you're on the board. If you're the Saints, you're hoping that this is a springboard to you getting back into this football game. But first things first, you need a stop. You need to be able to stop this offensive attack of Seattle and get them off the field. You haven't forced a punt. They haven't even really been challenged yet. They've had a 3rd and 1, and they got 60 yards on it. So you got to find a way to get them off the field without them getting points. You haven't been able to do that yet. So the next drive, you're thinking this is a huge drive in the game because if Seattle goes 3 and out or they don't score here and the Saints get the football back, now the Saints have some momentum. But if Seattle goes right back down the field and they score a touchdown, what do you do? What do you do? Because you can't stop them. What do you do? So Seattle responds with a 52-yard pass to Doug Baldwin, and this is what I'm talking about. And I'm about to talk about Russell Wilson here in a second, but they come on an all-out blitz, and to me, it wasn't even a very good blitz because you had guys lined up in areas where they could be blocked, and this line could protect this blitz because they came with more than they could block, but the way they were lined up, guys were on the outside. They were going to take too long to get there. It was going to be zero coverage, no safety help, man-to-man across the board. And all Russell Wilson had to do was identify the guy that he wanted to run a 9 route with, which in this case was your slot receiver, Doug Baldwin. He identified that at the snap, and he just lofts it up. Beautiful throw, in stride, catches it 52 yards. It's a blitz beater. It absolutely stuns the Saints, and it allows them to realize that we can't blitz him like that tonight. That's the first and the last time we'll come with an all-out blitz because if we do that, he's just proven to us that he's going to pick us apart. And that 52-yarder sets up a 20-yard Stephen Hauschka field goal. So even though if you're the Saints, you don't give up a touchdown, you still give up points. And at this juncture of the game, you got to get stops. You can't keep letting Seattle score points because it's making your job that much harder. You're already struggling as it is. So that was a great response by Seattle just to get something, get a field goal. And a 20-yard field goal means they got down to the 2-yard line. So you stiffened up on defense. You were able to stop them from getting in the end zone. And you know the mantra, field goals don't win games, touchdowns do. But if you're Seattle, with the lead you've built, a field goal just adds on to that. You're fine. But for future references, you get to the 2-yard line, you need to get in the end zone. Find a way in. Find a way in the end zone, whether you got to run read option, whether you've got to run the ball with Marshawn Lynch, go bootleg, whatever. You got to find a way in the end zone. You can't kick field goals from the 2-yard line, especially in the playoffs. You need to get touchdowns. But with the lead that you had already built up in this game, hey, points coming to premium. Need to keep piling them on, and that's what you were able to do. It's 20-7 at this point. And Seattle, the defense, they're swarming this Saints team at this point. They can't get anything going. So I thought that after that long drive, the Saints needed to put together another drive and get something. Even if it was just matching the field goal that they just gave up, they needed to get something. And they weren't able to do that. They had to punt the football. But they did move the ball a little bit, got a couple of first downs, and they pinned the Seahawks deep inside of their own territory. And we're approaching halftime. So this was the backbreaker right here. This possession here was the backbreaker because You get a stop on first down, you get a stop on second down, and you start using your timeouts. You use a timeout on second down to stop the clock at about 1:40-something seconds because you feel like it's third and long, it's about 3rd and 11, 3rd and 12, and we're going to get the ball back if we get this stop, and they're going to have to punt to us, and they're going to give us great field position. And that's the way you feel. And right around this time, the rain is picking up. And it's starting to become a Seattle game now. I mean, it was already a Seattle game, but now it's becoming worse because the rain is starting to come down a lot harder. And the Seahawks are prepared for this. They live for this. As a visiting team, you're not. And so it's just another thing you've got to deal with. And so everybody, even the commentators, even Mike Tirico and Gruden are thinking, okay, Saints are gearing up to get the football back. They're going to get great field position because the Seahawks right now are pinned against their own end zone. And with 2 timeouts, if they don't complete this pass, they'll have 2 timeouts with the Saints. If they do complete it and you burn a timeout, you have 1 timeout, about $1:30, plenty of time for Drew Brees to go down the field and get something. You're feeling like that'll get them back in this game. And what happens thereafter on 3rd down? Backbreaking. Because what that does is it kicks off a chain of events that put this game out of reach. And on that 3rd down, Russell Wilson finds Doug Baldwin for about 15 yards on 3rd and like 11. And that was deflating. That was crushing if you're the Saints because, A, you needed a stop. B, you thought you were getting the football back. C, you needed a stop to get the football back so that you could try to score before the half. And D, you needed to get the ball out of the hands of the Seattle Seahawks. And more importantly, Russell Wilson, because he was carving you up at this point. So none of those things were accomplished on that 3rd down because you gave up 15 to Doug Baldwin in a 1st down. So after that now, you switch from trying to get the football back mode to, all right, now we're on our heels. We need to stop them from getting more points. And at this point, you couldn't. They marched down the field, and right before the half, Seattle puts the Saints to sleep. This is one of those drives where you tell the Saints night-night, and you put them to sleep, you tuck them away, and the game's over. This one put the Saints to sleep. They were asleep after this drive. Night-night. And this was the one for me that did it. I was done taking notes. I didn't need to do anything else. This game was effectively over after the Saints gave up a 12-play, 88-yard drive in under 2 minutes, sealed with a Doug Baldwin 7-yard touchdown, wide open in the end zone. What a beautiful play call by Darren Bevel. Beautifully executed by Russell Wilson. And I'm about to talk about Russell Wilson here in a second. But they run a bootleg, and the action on the play, everything is going to the side of the bootleg, to the strong side of this play, toward the right. And Doug Baldwin comes all the way across the formation. No one covers him. He's wide open, and Russell Wilson has the presence of mind, first of all, to see him. Second of all, to get enough on the throw and throw a tight spiral through the wind, through the rain, to a wide open Doug Baldwin before the Saints can react. And he catches it. He's wide open. It's 27-7. What an impressive drive again. Let's just compare and contrast these 2 drives. The Saints' one and only scoring drive of the night. 13 plays, 80 yards, 8 minutes and 10 seconds. That's a lot of work for 7 points. Conversely, the Seahawks, in their game-clinching night-night drive where they put the Saints to sleep, the Seahawks went 12 plays, 88 yards in under 2 minutes. So, I mean, that tells you how easy things were for the Seahawks in this game versus how hard everything came for the Saints in this game. I mean, that tells you all you need to know. It took them less than 2 minutes to go, 12 plays and go more yards, 88, than the Saints went on their one and only scoring possession of the night. What else do I need to say? I mean, it was that kind of night, that kind of domination for the Saints, for the Seahawks in this game now. Let's talk about Russell Wilson because I already know. I did a whole series on the rookie quarterbacks last year. It was called the starting five. I did a whole series on Russell Wilson, Robert Griffin III, Ryan Tannehill, all the young quarterbacks that came in last year, Brandon Weeden, and so forth. And the thing about Russell Wilson that I saw in this game, and I already knew this. Again, I've watched this guy closely since he's come into the league and been really impressed. But he showed me some more stuff last night that you can't deny. He has it. And I don't care, love him, hate him. I don't care how you feel about Russell Wilson as a person. Because I don't know him personally, but he seems like a great guy. I mean, he seems like the quintessential leader of a football team. But love him or hate him, you can't deny what he brings to the football field as a leader, as a guy with all the intangibles. You can't deny the moxie and the poise that he has in and out of the pocket when a play breaks down. He throws such an accurate football. He throws with such touch when he has to, but he can also throw laser shots. He's so precise in everything that he does, his movements. Even when he runs read option, he's very calculated in his movement. This guy is the ultimate quarterback right now. I mean, the game he played against the Saints, can you play a better game all around than that? I mean, he threw every type of pass in this game. You got the bootleg rollout on the money to Zach Miller wide open for 60 yards. You've got the all-out blitz by the Saints. Zero coverage, man-to-man, perfectly thrown over the shoulder throw to Doug Baldwin for 52 yards. You've got Zach Miller on the slant at the 2-yard line on third down, perfectly thrown. You've got him under duress on a play where it looks like he's going to get sacked. He gets out of there somehow, scrambles, finds an open receiver. You've got him rolling out across his body, bootleg to the right. Doug Baldwin going all the way across the formation to his left. Him stopping, jump throwing it all the way back across, perfect spiral to an open Doug Baldwin across his body before Keenan Lewis could get there and try to break it up. So you got all the throws on display in this game. A perfectly thrown, feathery soft touch. A breastfeeding, nipple right in the mouth, breastfeeding of a football to Ricardo Lockett on the sidelines. Can you throw the football any better than Russell Wilson? And then they play the clip of him talking about how confident he is and how he feels he can get it done anytime he's on the field and how the separation is in the preparation. We all know the mantra that he has. I just love this guy. I mean, he gives you everything in such a small, tightly wound package. You get it all. And it was all on display. The full spectrum of Russell Wilson was on display in this game. And it's undeniable. It's undeniable everything that he brings to the table. And like I said, if you weren't impressed with him before this game, how could you leave this game and not be impressed with Russell Wilson? The athleticism, the accuracy, the arm strength, the touch, it's all there. How could you not walk away from this game saying, damn, he's good? I know I did, and I already knew he was good. But he took it to another level last night or Monday night, and damn, he's good. Damn, he's good. And I kept saying that in my mind. Like, I'm a Redskins fan, so I look at Robert Griffin III and I look at Russell Wilson, and I go, damn, he's good. He's everything I want my quarterback to be. Everything that I aspire for Robert Griffin III to be, Russell Wilson is already it. And so, this is a dangerous Seattle Seahawks team. I didn't take any notes in the second half. I didn't need to. I mean, this game was over at halftime. They put him to sleep. Night-night. And so, this was a dominant performance. This one put everyone else in the NFC on notice. That if you want to go to the Super Bowl, guess where you have to come to get a win? The Super Bowl, all roads lead to New York, and all roads in the NFC come through Seattle. That's what this game ensured. And so, look, there are some teams out there that probably feel like I can go into Seattle and win. To me, there's only one. Only one team that I feel like could go into Seattle and win, and that's Carolina right now. But I don't see anybody going into Seattle and winning. That's the whole point. is that you didn't want this. I said that before the season started. I said it last year. You don't want to have to go to Seattle because it's going to be wet, it's going to be cold, and this team is going to have the 12th man, and they're going to be dominant at home. And you saw it on full display on Monday night. This was a precursor to the postseason. This is a dangerous team. Dangerous football team. If you're the Saints, enough about the Seahawks. If you're the Saints, it's okay. This isn't the end of the world. You got an atomic ass whooping, and it's okay. Your cheeks are red. They're a little sore, but it happens. You got a sound beating. Or as my professor in college used to say, there was a sound thrashing that took place in this football game. Pick up your hat, dust it off, wipe your nose, a little bloody, it's okay. It'll heal, okay? The swelling on your eye and the blackness, it'll go down. Readjust your nose, straighten it back out, dust your clothes off, get ready for Sunday night. Forget about this one. It's over it. It's done. You're not going to have the number 1 seed in the NFC. That's finished, okay? Barring some kind of catastrophic meltdown where the Seahawks lose 2 out of their final 4 games and you win out, you're not going to be the number 1 seed. And that's okay. Matter of fact, they need to lose 3 out of their last 4 because they own the tiebreaker and they have a 2-game advantage over you right now at 11-1 and you're 9-3. So you're not going to get home field throughout. But what you can do is win your division, be the number 2 seed, do everything that you can to put yourself in a position to get back to Seattle to right this wrong. Because this was an injustice done against. What happened to you was felonious assault with a deadly weapon. Okay? You were assaulted, and in 29 states, the Seahawks are thrown away and thrown into jail. The key is thrown away, and they're never seen again because this was a hideous crime. Okay? They assaulted you on every level imaginable in this football game. And it's okay. You get up, you dust your hat off, wipe your nose, dust your clothes off, readjust your nose, the swelling will go down, get ready for Sunday night. Forget about this game, okay? Forget about it. This is just like what happened when you beat up on Dallas. Now you know how it feels. You beat up on Dallas, put a nice 40 burger on their head, and this could have got out of control. The Saints, or the Seahawks put it on cruise control in this game. They could have put up 47 on you easily in this game, but you don't need to. This game's over with. Okay? They put it in neutral. So now you know what it feels like to be bombarded, to be bum rushed in a football game. Okay, fine. Take your medicine. You go to Sunday night because that game is more important than this game. The next game is the most important game for you. Okay? So if you're a Saints fan, yeah, you took one on the chin. And this was a hell of a Mike Tyson uppercut here. You took one on the chin. But get up, dust yourself off, get ready for Sunday night because you need to win that division. Don't allow this game to resonate and stay with you and linger for such a long period of time that you go from the number 2 seed in the NFC to the number 5 or 6 seed in the NFC. Because it can happen. You lose at home to Carolina, then you got to go back to Carolina in 2 more weeks. You don't win this game at the Mercedes-Benz Superdome on Sunday night. You don't win that game. What makes you think you're going to go to Carolina and win in 2 weeks after that? So you got to win at home. Set the gauntlet down for this division and say, hey, we might have gotten beaten up by Seattle, but you're not Seattle and you're not at home in this game. You go home and you find a way to get it done. And nobody cares how it looks. You could win 7-6 against Carolina. For all you care, you need to beat them. Find a way to get it done. Forget about this game. Put it out of your memory. Remember, keep this in the memory bank because you might need this motivation because this was a nice, solid ass whooping that you took. You might need to put this one in the back of your memory bank so that if you, in fact, do get back to Seattle in an NFC championship game, you can say, yeah, I remember that. I remember this one, and that one stung. And you can bring that emotion out when you go and play it. But for right now, you need to put this away. Put it away because you got some big games coming up. And you got Carolina. You don't have time to sit and reflect on this game. You got to move on. You got to move on, and you got to go and get a win on Sunday. And that's going to be a huge matchup. So, big win for Seattle, man. What a performance. I mean, this was dominant on every single level imaginable. They ran the football. They threw it with ease. Defensively, they were dominant. I mean, Drew Brees had his streak of 200-yard passing games broken. I mean, the streak was so ridiculous that I don't even know what the number was, but he didn't even come close to sniffing 200 yards in this game. He struggled. I mean, his yards per attempt, dental floss thin in this game because the Seattle Seahawks defense was so dominant. So, big win for the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, 34-7, total domination. You proved to everyone around the league that we're a force to be reckoned with, especially when we're at home. And you made a statement, and that statement was that if you want to get to the Super Bowl, you got to go through us. You got to come to CenturyLink Field to get it done, and I just don't see anybody doing it. So, yeah, I'm basically saying that the Seahawks are going to the Super Bowl. If they play like this, if is a big word. What if my head was turned backwards and I can see frontwards? If is a huge word, the biggest two-letter word in the dictionary. If is a huge word. But if they play this way at home, who's beating them? Nobody. So, dominant win for the Seahawks. A very tough loss to swallow if you're New Orleans, but you don't have time to lament over this. You don't have time because you got a Sunday night matchup that's even bigger than this game. Because even though you had a chance to really do some damage in the NFC and really put the road and the path to the Super Bowl in the NFC as one that had to come through the Superdome, forget about that. You need to still win your division, okay? And so this next game against Carolina, much more important than the one that you just coughed up. So forget about this game. Move on. Dust your hat off. Dust your clothes off. Wipe your nose. Straighten your nose out. The swelling will go down. Go take care of business against Carolina. And that's all I got for you. You got to forget about this one. Move on. You dropped to 9-3 on the season. And guess what? Carolina's knocking at the door. And now you got to open that door. You're 9-3. They're 9-3. You can't run from the bully anymore. Now it's time for you to stand up to the bully. Look, you just got punched in the face by a bully. You got jacked up pretty bad by one bully. Don't get beat up by another one. It's time for you to stand up. Carolina's going to ask you for your lunch money, okay? They're going to ask you to give up your lunch money. It's time for you to stand up for yourself and say, no, I don't want to give you my lunch money. Don't give it to them. Stand up for yourself. Fight back. They swept you last year in the season series. Of course, that was without Sean Payton. I don't care. They swept you last year. They're playing with an abundance of confidence, and they feel like this is their game. They feel like this is their division. They're winners of 8 in a row. They're knocking at the door. You got to open it up, but this is the time for you to stand up for yourself. Stand up for yourself. Take a stance and get it done. Sunday night. Going to be a huge game I can't wait to watch. For Seattle, 11-1. Big game coming up against San Francisco. This is a big game because I need to see you travel. And even though you don't need to, because all roads end up in the NFC in CenturyLink in Seattle, I still want to see you get it done on the road because even if you go to the Super Bowl, you're not at home. So I still need to see you be able to travel, take the run game, take the passing game, take the defense on the road, and get it done against a really good San Francisco 49ers team that is hungry, that really is starving for a win against you because how you embarrassed them earlier in the season. So I want to see that game as well. But big win. You're now 11-1, essentially had the NFC wrapped up. Wow, what a game. What a game for the Seahawks. You got to move on if you're the Saints. That's going to do it for this wrap-up. I thank you for joining me. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the lab room. Thank you for joining me. That's going to do it for week number 13. What a week it was, as it was Showdown Sunday. A lot of teams had some showdowns, none bigger than this one, and the Seattle Seahawks were the biggest winner of week 13. You got to move on if you're the Saints. Going to be very interesting to see how you rebound from this big beatdown that you took. But big win for the Seahawks. A tough loss for the Saints. That's going to do it. I thank you for joining me. Have a good one. I'll see you as I go and break down all of these divisions in the National Football League.